With the latest third-person update to Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, a lot of players are jumping into the game for the very first time. And while this is a really great open-world game, it absolutely throws a ton at you right from the start, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed. Hey everyone, this is Chaz Plays Games, my name is Chaz, and the game that I'm playing again is Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora in the third person, which is the way nature intended games to be played. So after literally hundreds of hours in the game, let me share with you some of my essential beginner's tips to help you get the absolute most out of the game right from the start. And let's start with my biggest piece of general advice, which is to focus on progressing the main story for at least the first few hours until you've unlocked your Ikran. There are a ton of things to do and explore in this game, but in the beginning it does start out pretty slow while it sets up the main story and introduces the game's core mechanics. And during this time, your main mode of traversal is just running around on foot. Now to help with this, I would highly recommend from the control settings that you turn auto sprint to on, which is going to make getting around in general just a lot quicker. But once you've unlocked your Ikran through the Take Flight main mission, this game will really open up and you'll be able to get around and explore much faster. Now you should be able to do this within the first 5 to 10 hours or so of the game, and this will also take you through the main tutorial missions like how to craft and how to hunt, so I would highly recommend just pushing through the main story until you've unlocked your Ikran. Now another thing that's going to help you explore and get around much easier is to get in the habit of placing a waypoint down whenever you're on a mission or searching for something specific. You'll see the objective glow whenever you use your Navi sense, but once that glow disappears, you'll be left just sort of figuring it out on your own. So unless you want to keep using your Navi sense to make sure you're still on the right path, you can place a marker there. By placing the marker, it'll show up on your HUD and it'll give you a distance measurement so you'll know exactly where you're going and how long it's going to take you to get there. Now you can also switch the quest marker to always visible in the gameplay settings, but personally I find this pretty distracting and it still doesn't give you the distance, so I prefer just using a marker instead. Now you'll also get access to your SID device early on, which is going to allow you to hack the different parts of the game. In the gameplay settings, I'd recommend turning autocomplete SID lock on to on and autocomplete SID hacking to on. This is going to give you the option when hacking a machine to autocomplete, which is just going to make this whole process a lot quicker. Now don't get me wrong, I love a good minigame as much as the next person, but there are a lot of these in your playthrough, so switching these settings on is just going to make this whole process a little bit easier. And they don't completely eliminate the time requirement for the hack, so you will still need to wait for them to autocomplete, so it's not a total cheat. Now something I didn't realize until way too late in my playthrough is that you can also use the SID to hack the amp suits and turrets, which is a really effective way to disable them. Now you will need some stealth for this, but once you hack an amp suit, you'll have the option to either hack the amp or store the hack. Hacking the machine will freeze it in place immediately for a short duration, making it so that you can move in and get in a good hit. Storing the hack will give you the option to hack multiple machines and then trigger them all at the same time, which can be pretty tricky, but it's also pretty satisfying to pull off. Now early on in the game, when you don't yet have very good weapons and armors, if you're struggling with the combat, definitely make sure you're taking advantage of this. Now this also pairs really nicely with the Eject Ancestor skill, which I highly recommend you pick up as soon as possible. This is going to allow you to run up to an amp suit once it's disabled and pull the person right out of it, which is one of the most effective ways of dealing with the amps. Now I've got some other skills and ancestor abilities that I would definitely recommend you prioritize picking up straight away, but before I get into that, let's talk about hunting and crafting, because it is a really important part of the game and you are going to spend a ton of time doing it. Some of the best armors and weapons in the game are ones that you can only get from crafting. So whenever you visit a new merchant, make sure that you're not only checking out what gear they have available, but also check to see if they have any designs. These designs are totally free, so you want to make sure that you're picking them up whenever they're available. Now when it comes to gathering and hunting for materials, there are a couple things you need to know that's going to make your life on Pandora a lot easier. But first, let's start with just some of the basics. Crafting ammo and weapons is done at crafting tables, which is where you'll find all the designs that you've picked up. Each design is going to require some combination of materials that you'll need to find or hunt for out in the open world. You'll see here that Solek's Lightning Longbow requires one branch that's at least superior quality and one bast that's at least fine quality. The bow also has a range of damage between 38 and 182, meaning the better materials you use to craft the bow, the higher you'll be in that damage range once you craft it. So when it comes to finding the materials, in this case we just need the superior branch, we'll want to visit our hunting guide. This is a collection of all the materials you've scanned out in the wild, so when you're out and about in the world, you'll want to make sure you're in the habit of finding and scanning different items with your Navi sense so that they're added to your hunting guide. Now to help with this, from the controls settings, I like to turn toggle to use Navi senses to on so that I don't have to continually press and hold to use my Navi sense, but that's just personal preference. Now once we've decided on which material we want to find, be sure to pin that item, which is going to add the item to the top right corner of your screen, and this is really helpful for a couple of reasons. First, the pin is going to be added to our map, so when visiting our map, by pressing down on the D-pad, it'll bring up the material tracker. The tracker is a quick way to tell us exactly where we can find the item and where we can find the rarer, higher quality versions of that item without having to go back and forth into the hunter's guide. So this tells us that the nightleaf tree is along the cliff sides in Kinglore Forest, and the rarer types are around the Blackwater Basin in the north of the forest. So from here, we can zoom all the way out on our map to find the Kinglore Forest, which is where we are, and we want to look for the Blackwater Basin. Now this of course does depend on how much of the map you've actually uncovered, and even still, it can be really hard finding the specific area on the map that you're looking for because it's a huge map. So if you're having trouble, I've linked a map genie in the description below where you can search for the material or the item that you're looking for, and it'll show you the exact location. For me, this was an absolute game changer and saved me a ton of time when out there looking for materials, so if you're having trouble like I was, definitely be sure to check that out. Now once we've located the spot on our map, make sure you drop a marker there so you can easily get there, and once there, you'll notice the pin in the top right corner of the screen will glow orange, indicating that you're close to the item. Use your Nave Sense to scan the area and you'll see that the pinned items will glow orange, so it'll stand out a bit more. Now you'll also want to make sure that you're taking the time to inspect the item before you gather it. This is going to tell you what particular level that item is at, this one being superior quality, which is what we want, with a range of between 30 and 33. Now I definitely recommend that you scan every item before you pick it up so that you have an idea of the rarity of that item before you gather it. As you progress through the game, storage space in your pouch is going to be a premium, so you don't want to spend a bunch of time collecting and gathering rarer resource items that you're eventually just going to have to drop. So definitely get in the habit of scanning the item to check to see whether or not it's worth actually gathering. Now once we found the item that we want to make sure we're getting it at the best quality or at the top end of that range. In this case, it needs to be raining, which it's currently not, so when I gather that item, it's only at a 31. If I wait and try it again when it is raining, you'll see it's at a 33. Now to make this system a little bit easier, in the gameplay settings you can adjust the gathering difficulty to either low or off. Now I wouldn't recommend totally switching the difficulty off, as this is going to remove the ability for you to gather those pristine level items, but low difficulty will make it a bit easier to gather, so if you're having trouble, just know that this is an option in the settings. And another quick thing to remember here is that the direction that you use to gather the item is going to be the same for each item. So if you're gathering a whole bunch of nightleaf tree branches and you don't really want to pull up the controls for each one, just know that it's the same for all of them. And another thing, if you attempt to gather a material but you lose out on the pristine bonus, all you have to do is just exit out of that gathering animation and then go right back into it, and you can still harvest the material the right way and get that pristine bonus.
Should be enough. Shellfruit next.
Now another thing that I didn't realize until way too late into the game is that you can craft multiple different versions of the same gear. So for example, if you craft Solek's lightning longbow with just the materials that you have on hand, but you want to craft a more powerful version of that bow later on when you've got better, more exquisite materials, you can definitely do so. So sometimes just crafting something because you've got the resources on hand and you need a quick upgrade is worth it, because you can always go back and make it a little bit more powerful later on. Now when it comes to skills and how to best spend your skill points early, there are definitely a couple things I would recommend picking up. In the Memories of the Maker skill branch, be sure to pick up the Scavenging Expert skill. This is going to give you spare parts when looting amps. Spare parts are one of the most valuable resources in the game, and you are going to want to collect as many of them as possible. Not only are these used as currency at headquarters to buy different items, but they're also used for crafting ammo for your staff sling, which I found to be the most powerful weapon in the game, even though you get it incredibly early. You can usually find spare parts in these yellow chests when you're out exploring, but being able to collect them when you're looting amps is just going to help you get even more of them, so I would highly recommend picking up this skill as early as possible. Now also in the Memories of the Maker branch, I'd recommend picking up the Stable Hand skill. This skill is going to make it even easier for you to gather those higher quality pristine items, although if you do end up adjusting the gathering difficulty in the settings, you can probably pass on this one. Now over in the Memories of the Warrior skill branch, you should definitely make sure to pick up the Well Prepared skill, which is going to open up that 4th weapon slot so you can equip 4 weapons at a time. Over in the Memories of the Hunter branch, be sure to pick up the Eye for Quality skill. With this skill, you can use your Nave Sense to instantly identify mature animals so you don't have to scan the pack every time. The mature animals are the ones that are going to give you the best items, so these are typically the ones you're going to want to kill, so this skill is going to make it a lot easier for you to pick them out in the crowd.
Thank you for these gifts.
Early on, stealth is also going to be really important, so in the Memories of the Hunter branch, I'd recommend picking up Light-Footed Hunter 1 and 2 as soon as possible to make it even easier for you to move around in stealth. Now over in the Memories of the Rider skill branch, I'd recommend picking up Aerial Fishing 1 and eventually Aerial Fishing 2 and 3, which is going to make it really easy to feed your Ikran and restore their energy by flying over water so that you don't need to use your stored food. Now another thing to note here is that once you acquire all the skills in any particular branch, there will be an expert level skill that you can grab. If I had to recommend one branch to prioritize, from top to bottom, the Memories of the Maker skill tree is probably the best one. You really can't go wrong with any of these skills, especially skills like Wasteless Cooking, which has the chance to grant you a second food item for free, Expert Ammunition Crafter, which doubles the amount of ammo you can craft, and Connoisseur levels 1, 2, and 3, which will significantly lengthen the amount of time your food bust will last. And its apex skill, Master Crafter, will allow you to craft even more powerful weapons and gear. Now you'll also get Ancestor Skills, which are special abilities that you get once you find Tarsu plants out in the wild. Generally, these aren't too hard to find, so I definitely would recommend picking them up whenever you're in the area. Now I've already mentioned the Eject skill, which should probably be the first one you pick up, but the other ones I found to be pretty useful are the Drop Impact skill, which gives you the ability to perform a melee attack while airborne for some additional damage, Reconnaissance, which leaves a trail that you can follow to see the path of enemy patrols and is really useful for setting traps, and Soft Landing, which is a good way to save yourself from taking additional damage when you fall. Overall, I think most of these skills are pretty nice to have, but I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to grab them. So whenever you're out exploring the world, just know which ones are in the area, and if you're near one, be sure to pick it up. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful, and if so, leaving a like or a comment to let me know is always appreciated. I'm working on a ton more Avatar Frontiers of Pandora content, which I'll link right here when it's ready. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Come on, Floof. Let's ride.